Hello and welcome to another episode of Standing Stanley Tucci. I'm Hannah.
And I'm David, and we continue to stan the Stan. We're still
Stan the
watching
man.
every single IMDb credit that he's ever had in order, um, from the small parts to the big parts. And this is a small part in a pretty small movie. It wasn't a huge success at the time, but it's got a lot
But
of big stars in it.
it's got so many huge stars in it. And I will say, even though it is a small role, he manages to make a meal out of it, you know?
I really do think so. What we're watching this week is Billy Bathgate, 1991,
I talked to my friends
another
about,
mob movie.
yeah, I talked to my friends about this and they were like, I'm sorry, what? I've never heard of this movie. And then I listed off the cast and they were like, what? How have I never heard of this movie? Like,
Right. Well, I mean, it was during a time where a lot of people were making these sort of historical fiction-y mob movies, and this
mhm,
one was particularly kind of prestige-y, but kind of
not.
not like good enough to be prestige-y.
Yeah.
It was based on a book by E.L. Doctorow, who's the guy who wrote Ragtime. You might be more familiar
Mhm.
with that one. Um, and then the screenplay was by Tom Stoppard, who wrote Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. That's the play he's most famous for. And the thing he's least famous for is doing dialogue touch-ups on Revenge of the Sith.
Really?
Yeah, that's Tom. That's Tom for you.
Oh
Tom
my
Stoppard.
God. Wow.
So I think this is the kind of project that if I were Stanley Tucci in the 90s, I would be desperate to be a part of.
Right.
I think at this point he's getting a little more selective with the types of roles that he takes. Still a mob movie, still a gangster, but he doesn't kill anyone on screen.
Nope.
He is not killed in the end.
Mm-mm.
Um, he's almost like an upstanding citizen. he, he's practically a good guy.
Oh my God.
But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't hurt his image any more than what he's already been in, and it's a much more prestige type of movie.
Mm-hmm. For
What
sure.
did
For
you
sure.
what did you think of this as like a role, as a part of his legacy, as a part of his rise?
I mean, it's nice to see him in a movie as the gangster boss now because, we've got him as the gangster boss in TV, but in the movies, he was still just kind of like the guy or like the son of the guy. And now
Right.
finally, he just is the guy. He is
Right.
the
I mean, in Men of
mafioso.
Respect, he does rise to the rank of capo or whatever,
Right, right. But
um,
only because he
but
was
only
like the
because his
son of the
dad
guy.
dies.
Right.
Sure,
And it's
sure.
Macbeth. So, like,
Right.
what are you going
Yeah,
to
I
do?
can see why he signed up for that one. I mean, it's prestige in the way that it had a lot of interesting character actors from the time, and it was Macbeth. So you think,
Right.
oh, well, if I'm going to do a mob movie, it should at least be
Be
artsy like that.
Macbeth.
Unfortunately, it was terrible. This one,
Right.
I didn't hate
I
as a
didn't hate
movie.
it. It's certainly not the worst movie we have
No,
watched for this by
no.
any means. Um,
And the performances, I think it's what you show up for, really.
yeah.
A little bit the writing, but I mean, it's not like for the plot necessarily. It's based
No,
on
the
real events, based on very close to an actual like killing. The killing that happens at the end is extremely historical. All the buildup is kind of fictionalized, but it's
yeah.
something.
Yeah. Um it's definitely a weird movie. It's not the worst. The plot is like paper thin. You know,
It's
and
it's
like
like a novel, probably could
yeah.
would
You
make it more entertaining.
yeah, you don't really care about the title character that much. Or at least
Billy.
I didn't. I'm not surprised that the lead character in this movie is the only one who like really didn't go on to do much. He had like a couple of movies in the 2000s and like nothing else really.
Right.
Um, but
This
like,
was a,
we should list the cast for
we
people
should
who
list
like
the
don't
cast
know.
for people. Yeah, because it's crazy. The
Yeah.
the lead is Dustin Hoffman, who great performer, but he has been Me Too'd pretty severely. So we do not stand
He's a jerk,
Dustin.
unfortunately. He
um,
puts in a pretty good performance, I would say.
yeah, I'd say, it's there. He's definitely had better performances before this,
And
but
after.
he's and after, but and he's doing kind of like a growly sort of smoker voice. I think probably because he like heard recordings of the actual guy he's playing, Dutch Schultz, this mobster kingpin guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have Nicole Kidman in, I think, a pretty early role for her,
I think so.
and pretty early full frontal for her.
Yeah, just a lot of poor sexualization for Nicole Kidman. Just
Yeah.
like she is the TNA of this entire, hers is the worst character, honestly. It's
Yeah.
not her fault. It's just this character does not exist except to be object, you know.
Yeah. In sort of like a featured role, kind of
Right.
a blink and you miss it kind of cameo, but also very important to the story, is Bruce Willis as Bo Weinberg,
I
the
mean,
most
I
Jew sounding name for Bruce that I've ever seen.
yeah. Yeah. the I mean, I would say his role is like you definitely don't miss it, you know. It
Yeah,
opens
no,
on you
he
like murdering him. Spoilers, everyone.
right.
Um
We're about to tell you the whole plot, so it's not really
yeah.
a spoiler if it's the first
Um
scene. Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying he's like a featured character. He's like a
sure.
character actor.
Right.
He's not playing like a deuteragonist or anything like
Right,
that.
right. Which is interesting for like 1991 Bruce Willis, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he was a name. Like he
Yeah.
was in the advertising. I think his name might even be on the
It's like
poster.
it's second in the opening credits. You get
Right,
Dustin
second
Hoffman and
billing. Right.
then like, you know, the guy who dies 20 minutes in.
Right, and then a sort of common co-star for Stan Tucci is Steve Buscemi, who is
Yes.
so often
Whomst
playing.
we also.
Right. I mean, we already whomst we also him, so maybe we should whomst Bruce Willis or Nicole Kidman. Give them a shot. I don't know.
Well, you mentioned the screenwriter. I know you love Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
I do. I think
Can
it's
can
one of
we
the
whomst?
funniest. Well, let's whomst Tom Stoppard for today, or maybe I don't know. Do people like Ragtime? I haven't read it yet. Do people like Eel Doctorow? Anyway.
Pretty sure Ragtime's the racist one where a Jewish guy dresses in blackface.
Yeah, but I think there's like a the complicated literary history of
Yeah, I just don't know.
rediscovery and
I just don't
rejection.
know if I'm ready to stand them. That's all. But yeah, so this movie, it's weird. It's basically mobsters go upstate to try to get a good trial, and everyone wants to fuck Nicole Kidman, and then the movie ends. And
Right,
some people
it's
die.
right. That's like the plot. The real story is that it's about this kid Billy
From the
from
Bronx.
from the Bronx, and he grew up on Bathgate Avenue, and he's like just this Irish kid, not going to amount to anything. He's a juggler,
Ugh,
um, and he gets picked out of a crowd by this real life
mob.
mobster. I mean, Billy Bathgate is not a real
Right.
person as far as I know. But
He becomes
Dutch,
his protege, or as he
right,
refers to him in the movie, his prodigy.
right, yeah, that's a fun little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically he is sort of trying to become part of this gang, and that's really like where the story is, and it's about him like treating the Dustin Hoffman Dutch character as like a father figure because he doesn't have a father, and
Mm.
then it's his abusiveness and sort of struggling with that while his father figure also is interested in Nicole Kidman, who he's interested in. So there's an Oedipal
It's a very,
struggle.
very edible. My
So
favorite
edible.
stupid Community joke for all you fans out there.
Yeah, and so that's like really where the trouble is, and where the struggle of the plot is in that tension, and then the
Yeah.
fact that Dustin Hoffman is getting increasingly more paranoid as the film goes on, because his best buddy in the whole world, Bruce Willis, sold him out to the Italians, and then in the end, his paranoia was totally justified. So I
Yeah.
don't know
It's a weird
what kind of
message.
message that is.
I
But
don't know.
really, the thing that they keep saying is just that Billy Bathgate, you're one lucky son of a bitch. That he's the
Yeah.
luckiest guy in the
He's just the
world.
luckiest guy because he survives the shooting by this much. And then he gets
Right.
captured by Tucci's goons. Because that's Tucci's role in this story is a rival gang leader. And he gets
Right.
called a
Of
lot of
course,
Italian
he's the
ethnic slurs.
Italians,
Yeah.
the slurs. Yeah, we're not going to say the slurs, but they call them the
Nope.
slurs. And the Italians move into what was formerly, Jewish and I guess Dutch. They're not really Dutch, but Jewish mob groups
Territory.
territory, and they're not able to keep control of their banks or whatever.
The number shops.
Their number shops, the betting houses, the bookies, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
They can't keep control of them anymore because now they're getting slammed with all these tax evasion cases
Nah. First,
by
the federal
the
government.
prosecutor who's trying to make a name for himself.
Yeah.
Can't be bribed.
Nah.
I mean, there's just so much good like background detail like that. I think that's really what I like about it. Is,
Yeah.
When they talk about like this real life councilman from Tammany Hall, that's dirty, and they go and meet with him and try and give him the money. He's like, man, I can't touch this, and then it's all the little historical goodies that I like.
Well, however historical they are.
Right. Well, some of them are.
Yeah. Yeah, so in the end it turns out that the person who betrays Dustin Hoffman's character is their lawyer who betrays him to Tucci's gang,
led by Lucky Luciano. That's his character's name. It's such a great specific kind of ethnic mob name. I don't know if he's a real person or not, but he certainly stands in for the idea of the Italian mafia taking over that part of New York.
Right.
And he's great. I mean, the first time we see him is, Dustin Hoffman is hiding out in the country.
In the Catskills.
In the Catskills, right? The country. And he's just in a church, and we see him getting baptized, and then all of a sudden,
Stanley Tucci's just there.
Right.
He's over his shoulder, and he puts his hand on his shoulder, and he's got a gold ring.
Right. And this is why I say, like, Tucci, I think he's moving up in the world by this point. I think he's more recognizable by this point. He's not a name yet, but he's a face. And he's definitely a name when it comes to, casting directors in New York.
Yeah.
Or this might be in LA, I actually don't know where the casting director would have lived for this. Probably in New York. It was definitely shot in various places that aren't New York, but but that's to be expected for historical dramas. They tend to be shot in small
wherever
towns where you can dress them up very easily. Yeah. But yeah, so he's just there. There's no explanation for why he's significant, but the camera is telling you, watch out for this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he's got like a short scene where basically he's like, listen, I just came here to vouch for you to the priest that you're serious about being a Catholic and all,
right.
But I'm going back to town. I'm not gonna stay and hang out. I got business.
And he very slyly says, hey, whatever happened to your associate Bo Weinberg? Bruce Willis, who's he got the concrete shoes, he's sleeping with the fishes at this point in the movie, and he knows that. Tucci knows that. he's just laying it on real thick. I don't know. I know. So
I
once
would have
upon a
liked
time, I thought
would have liked to meet him. And he's like, oh yeah, I bet you would.
I bet you would. He had, of course, he had been following him before and saw him when Bruce Willis was hanging out with Nicole Kidman, and so Nicole Kidman recognizes him and and tips them off that Bo and Luciano were in cahoots in some way, shape, or form. But that doesn't really matter because immediately after that, Tucci's gang comes in and just guns them all down.
Yeah.
Except for the real lucky guy wasn't lucky, Luciano. It was Billy Bathgate.
Yeah, who gets dragged after surviving not being shot, but gets taken to Tucci. And Tucci's like, what am I gonna do with you? Oh. Yeah. I gotta kill you, I guess. And then
at first he's just gonna kill him. At first he's just gonna kill him like with no thought to it whatsoever.
Right.
He's just like, why'd you even bring him here? You were supposed to kill them all.
Right. Take care of the trash. But then it turns out he's like, what about all the money? And the lawyer's like, there's no money. And he's like, yeah, no, wait, there is money. And so then he gets
this lawyer's double crossing you too. He's a triple cross.
Trying to steal some money. And it's left ambiguous about whether or not they killed the lawyer or just beat him up real good.
No, they're gonna kill him.
Really?
They're absolutely gonna. There's no way they don't kill him.
I feel like they definitely. I don't know. I feel like they maybe just beat him up a bunch.
All right. Well, I think when you skim money from the mob, that's what we saw earlier.
That's true.
There were several scenes where Dustin Hoffman would just be like casually talking to somebody, and then someone would say something, and he would just either blast them in the mouth or grab their head and slam them against a wall until they died. It's that kind of movie.
Yeah.
So Stanley Tucci, he's now looking at this Billy Bathgate kid.
Right.
And he's saying, you just solved a big problem for me of this double-crossing lawyer, and you're going to get me a lot of money for it. How can I kill you? How can I punish you for that?
Right, but also
what am I going to do with you?
Too much. You know too much.
Of course, he's been everywhere. He's always listening in. He asks too many questions, as his fellow gang leaders would say to him.
Right.
And so
then he ballsily is like, but he had just gotten like a $17,000 like severance payment, but like, which, in like 1930s, 1940s money, it's like, that's like $1 million or something, especially to a kid who like makes nothing.
Right. I mean, I think that narratively it works because you're like, if he just like spends all the time in the gang and then gets out alive but doesn't get anything from it, it doesn't feel like, a big reward.
Right, because he didn't really learn anything. He just like
he learned
around.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Well, he literally fucked around as well. He lost his virginity to Nicole Kidman of all people. So
of all people. But so
can we talk more about her character?
We'll get there. I just want to finish up this part.
I just like that we keep interrupting the last scene to talk about other scenes.
I know. All right. So he like ballsily asks Tucci, Billy does. He goes, "Hey, can I have my money?" And Tucci like turns around and gives him this look like, what? It's very, for the video podcast people, it's very similar to the look he's giving Dustin Hoffman in my background. But it's like this kind of half glare. It's that look of incredulity that he does so well. Or he's like, I can't even believe you asked for this, but sure, why not? And gives it to him and sends him on his way.
Because it's a power move too. It's like 17 grand. That means nothing to me.
Yeah.
We're talking about 5-6 mil. This is this is chump change.
Pocket change. Exactly.
Yeah. And so he sends him on his way, says, but look, Billy Bathgate, I know where Bathgate Avenue is, as do all real New Yorkers.
And I know where, but then he like calls him out. He really does. He's like, I know where your mom works. You stay fucking clean and I'm watching you, basically. And he's like, yes, sir. Bye-bye. And that's the end of the movie. It ends very unsatisfyingly.
I think it would work in novel form.
Yeah,
That's a
maybe.
typical kind of novel sort of ending where then he lived the rest of his life.
Right. There's just like, I don't know, there's like no real resolution. There's not really a good character arc, is why it feels bad.
It's a coming of age story about Oedipal's struggle, which he ultimately ends
Yeah.
up symbolically killing his father and stealing his money.
Yes.
That's what it is.
I
It's not
guess.
complicated, but it is complete.
I guess. I don't know. It feels very
Um,
dull for sure. Okay, but you want to talk about Nicole Kidman's
I wanted to talk
character.
about because she's sort of I don't know if this is like a trope on TV tropes, but she's like sort of a manic pixie hostage,
I mean, she's got a little bit of the she's very much the dame, you know.
No, definitely. But I just think like the idea that she is like always in a hostage situation where she could die at any moment, but she's above that. She's not
She
afraid.
is. She's
There's like a
she's like,
scene
yeah, she's like a tough, like cool girl.
of Cookie.
Um like the cool girl speech from Gone Girl is exactly like Nicole Kidman's character in this, where it's like she's like super sexy and always flirting and like really just wants to be loved properly, but like will do what she has to get by, like that's who this character is. And it's never been more clearly written by a man.
Right. Well, I think that one of the like interesting in that I think it illustrates something bad about this character, which is we're seeing a flashback to her, who up until this point we just assumed was like her love, the love of her life, which is Bruce Willis.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing him die. And so he gets thrown off of the boat with his concrete shoes and he slams into the water. But then the camera goes under the water and it's not him, it's a naked Nicole Kidman who has
Yeah.
then dived into the water. And so I thought in that moment, oh, that symbolism is like, oh, now she's suicidal because the love of her life is dead. But that was not what that scene was. That scene was she's not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
She can dive off a cliff into a puddle of water and not even bat an eye, and she doesn't care that people are dying all around her.
No.
She's this free
She's
liberated woman who is
Yeah.
married but goes around and dates
Well,
gangsters.
it's because her husband is gay.
Right, well, that's what makes her able to be so liberated.
Yeah. Gotta marry a gay, I guess, in
Yeah,
1940.
and she's like, she knows too much, and so Steve Buscemi is coming after her with a gun, and he is looking, very Randall from Monsters Inc., just slithering around with his gun, and he's like about to kill her, and then her gay husband shows up, and then they just fly off in a plane together out of the movie. And
I'm
he's like,
sorry that
"What happened?"
Randall. I know her exit from the movie is very sudden and like,
Right, but the characters recognize it.
yeah.
They're all like, "What? So he just showed up?"
Oh,
No, no,
that's
I
so weird.
called him on the phone to warn him to come here. Huh. And so then they just flew away from like the whole movie.
From the whole movie, they're done. She's done. Her contract was
Yeah,
up.
it's pretty funny. Yeah.
Ugh,
And
this
then when it
movie is
comes to like
wild.
the gratuitous, the full frontal nudity, like literally, she like is wearing a towel. She's gotten out of the shower and she walks over to a mirror,
No, but
and
it's one
then,
of those like threefold mirrors, so it
of
gets you from
course,
every angle.
so you got to get your money's worth. And then she drops the towel for literally like 10 frames, and then it cuts to the next scene. It's like just cut the scene 10 frames earlier. But no, you got to get your money's
You
worth
gotta get
again.
the ass. You gotta see the bush from the side. You
Bush.
gotta see those boobs. Like,
Right.
I will say, it was a lovely looking bush.
Sure. Uh, can't complain.
On that note, I guess we'll talk about the Tucci news.
Yeah, I thought since we're now getting into maybe a little bit higher quality films that Tucci's in, a little bit higher budget, a little bit more prestige,
Bigger
now might
stars.
right bigger stars for sure. Now might be a good time to provide a little bit of a preview of some of the great roles that we're going to see.
Yeah, courtesy of Vogue by Emma Spector. Thank you. Another stan of Stanley Tucci. She has an article that came out on the 16th of April called Ranking Stanley Tucci's Most Beloved Roles in Vogue. And
yeah, so this isn't definitive, of course. It's one writer's opinion, but she represents Vogue, who
and
are synonymous with style and class.
Yes, and she represents fans and stans, right, which is what we're about.
So let's read the intro real quick. You want to start us
off? Sure. It is, in many ways, the spring of Tucci.
The spring of Tucci.
Mwah! Beautiful. Actor Stanley Tucci recently garnered attention for his new CNN food travel show, Searching for Italy, which New Yorker food writer Helen Rosner called escapism of another order, which, like, yeah, because it's
maybe we should read that article, the Helen Rosner one.
We'll do that when we get to the show. Tucci has a culinary memoir of his own due out soon. That's true. And his acting career isn't showing any signs of slowing down. His sweet and wry style, coupled with his surprising sex appeal. I'm sorry. I do have to disagree that it's surprising. The sex appeal is very apparent. Like it's right on the surface.
I think that it's at a level, the sex appeal, where it would be surprising on any man, you know? And maybe she's saying surprising for his lack of recognition from, you know, we talked about he didn't win Sexiest Bald Man.
That's true. That's true. I mean, you know, she goes on to say it feels like something we all slept on pre-pandemic, only to be confronted with it anew when he made his wife a Negroni, which we have talked about many times on this podcast. And then, you know, it just kind of goes on to some of his best roles. So David, do you want to kick us off with the first top of Emma's list?
Yeah, she ranks them starting with number 1, and so in her humble opinion, the greatest Tucci role is his role as Paul Child in Julie and Julia.
Now, I think many people would agree with her there. Like, I know a lot of people who love him in that role.
Yeah, and it definitely combines his love of food with his love of, you know, delightful male roles.
Plus, he gets to be married to Meryl Streep. Like, seems like a delight.
Yeah, the husband role as the sort of, you know, the dream husband.
Yeah.
But that's not the role that he plays in the second ranked Tucci role.
Nigel in The Devil Wears Prada. And this is, of course, this was my introduction to the glory that is the Tucci.
Right.
And I love him in this role. Like, this is a great movie, period. But, like, he absolutely steals the show.
Yeah. So can't wait to get to that one.
Yeah. Another number 3 is Puck in A Midsummer's Night Dream. And I do just have to read this one line from it. So Jonathan Whitesell, Mickey Rooney, and Arthur Miller have also played the role, but we like to think Tucci perfected it. Like, that's some Stan vibes, you know?
Perfecting Shakespeare, you know? Perfecting Shakespeare. That's impressive.
Incredible. I agree, Emma. I haven't even seen him in this yet, and I probably agree.
Just running through some more of them really quickly. His role Jerry Siegel in Made in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. His role as Dave Kingman in America's Sweethearts. And then an odd choice, but a very respectable one, is his role as magician Jefferson Burke in Kit Kittredge, An American Girl.
I did not know this movie existed, and
there are tons of American Girl movies. It's part of this like transmedia franchise of the American Girl, books and the movies.
I loved American Girl doll books growing up, and I had an American Girl doll growing up, but like I did not know that there were movies and TV shows.
Yeah, I think most of them are adapted from the books.
Probably. Like, why have an original idea? You've already written some. You're just trying to make money here.
Right.
But like, I am so psyched to see Stanley Tucci as a mustachioed magician in an American Girl doll movie. I
Yeah.
am psyched.
Yeah, but I also just like I respect this list for the mix of sort of highbrow and lowbrow children and adult. And then the blockbuster, which is the next one, his role as Caesar Flickerman in the Hunger Games Mockingjay. But I believe he was in all of them.
He's in all of them, but I think this person particularly enjoyed his performance in Mockingjay for whatever reason.
Sure.
Not that he does a bad job. I always found this role so off-putting, which is like what it's supposed to be.
That's what it's meant to be, yeah.
But like it's not one of my favorite Tucci roles. Not that he does a bad job. It's so unsettling. I prefer to see Tucci in nice
in handsome roles, like as Tusker in Supernova. So I think it's great that he's still
snubbed at the Oscars.
Absolutely snubbed. He wasn't the only one, though.
That's true.
He, as far as people who were snubbed, at least he is somewhat privileged and whatnot.
In being alive.
Yeah.
we decided last year that the Oscars suck and we don't care about them anymore. Right, so
we don't care.
It's fine.
He never wanted an Oscar anyway. Anthony Hopkins didn't even want the Oscar. So
no.
But yeah, again, we have with Supernova the repetition of the idea that I'm generally not a fan of straight actors playing queer or queer-coded characters, but Tucci is one of the precious few exceptions to the rule. So yeah, why is he able to play gay roles when other straight men would be chastised? No one knows. It's just one of Tucci's special skills.
Also has him as George Harvey in The Lovely Bones, which I believe is the serial killer. Yes, I have not seen this film.
Yeah, we're gonna get to it, and you're gonna have to watch it. And
I'm excited to watch it. It'll be weird.
Right. But I think it's on here partially for contrast. You can't have it all be his most handsomest roles. So that one's ranked at the bottom. It seems like just sort of a token. Look, he's got range. Which he absolutely does, but
for sure,
this is definitely a stan. We respect you, Emma Spector. We love you. We are part of your clan.
Yes, thank you for your hard work. Elevating Tucci to the level of fame that he truly deserves. Of Vogue. Thank you. Thank you for putting him in Vogue. Finally, I'm sure he's been in Vogue.
All right. Well, that's all we have for this week. Oh, there was one more sort of Easter egg that I wanted to mention, which is that at one point when Tucci is describing Bo Weinberg, he calls him a man of respect. So he's
already making callbacks to his previous work. He's already there in his head. He knows.
Yeah, so we're not getting to any of the movies we just mentioned next, no. but we will be getting to some really juicy ones soon. So keep following us and tweet at us if you want to be a guest stan. We love to meet new fans of Stanley Tucci and bring them on to talk about just whatever Stan Tucci movie you want.
For real, we are obsessed. See you guys next week for a regularly scheduled Talking Tropes, and catch you on the flip side. Bye.
Later.